Hello and welcome to another Guardians of Wilt-Shire video. I'm your host Dewi, and this will be a review of the Warhammer World GT that went to weekend just gone, so the 24th, 25th of February even. April? What am I on about? I'm going to be cleaning up some new models that have just come through in the post, so excuse the rustling and everything, but I'll talk you through all my games and kind of how they went and how the GT was itself. Probably start with what I took. You had to take a good and an evil force. So my evil force was the same force I took to the Scouring of Cheshire. I will do a hobby vlog on a separate side note. I will do a hobby vlog to kind of cover what I've done this year so far. It's been a little bit hectic, which is why I haven't had anything recorded up recently. So my scouring of so my 700 points of evil was the Witch King and the Undying on a Fell Beast, both on a Fell Beast with a Taskmaster, and then I had 5 Morannons and 4 Black Numenorians in each warband, kind of a mix of shield and spear and just spear. And then I had a Black Numenorian banner with the Witch King and a Spectre with the Undying. So I was feeling relatively alright about those. And then I've played with that force before, so I kind of know what it does and what it's good at and how it works. And then my good force was Thranduil from the Free People's Lothlorien and Mirkwood list, with 3 Guards of the Gladstone Court, 1 with a banner, 8 Wood Elves, 6 had spear, 2 of those had bows as well, and 2 extra bows. And then I also had Baragond with 6 Warriors Minas Tirith, 4 Rangers, 2 of the Rangers had spear, and Knight Minas Tirith. Damrod had exactly the same. I had Garn and 9 Woses, and then I also had Gladio, Lady of Light. On paper, I thought it was a relatively good list. I planned it out for quite a while. When I wrote the list mid to end of January, I had 1 of those models painted, so I had a furious kind of month just getting all of that sorted, which meant I had no playtesting with it, and you will tell from what I say to you that playtesting would have been really, really helpful. So I'll move into the game. It's the first time I've been up to Warhammer World and absolutely loved it. The whole venue is phenomenal. Really, really, really enjoyed my weekend. We had an Airbnb, 7 of us. Big shout out to those guys, Air G&T as it was called. Really big shout out to those guys. I had a great weekend playing board games and staying up late having beers. So I might as well move on to kind of the tournament and how it progressed. I'm going to try and keep these to like 5 minutes each, just to keep it light and cheerful. So the first scenario of the day was to the death. And I was playing a guy called Dave Jones from Chester. He says he plays with Gethin, who I know relatively well. And the scenario was to the death, and I was the younger, so I rolled my dice, and I rolled my evil list, which was slightly unfortunate for him, as he had all-mounted Rohan. So he had Eomer, Erkenbrand, Eowyn, and a captain, with Royal Guard and just riders. So it kind of started off with, I think I lost deployment, so we put some horses down first. I ended up spreading them out all across the board, pretty much. I presume very wary of the Fell Beasts. I would be if I was that army as well. So yeah, good thing to start with. The only thing I thought was a little bit off was putting Eomer, his general, out on my left flank. And not having many other things near it. So kind of the game progressed. I slowly moved up. He kind of stand and shot. He's Rohan. Why not? He shot quite a few at me. He possibly killed 1 or 2 guys before combat. But kind of the main thing was AMA moved up the flank enough that the fell beasts could just go and tag him. I could tell I hadn't played with them for a while because I was a little bit rusty. For example, I charged the Witch King in to a Royal Guard without sapping well AMA. So when it came to the Undying going in, he still had dice to resist the Transfix. Little rookie mistake, but kind of it didn't matter too much. In the end, AMA went down. Took me a couple of turns. He used some he obviously used his fate. I ended up using my might to call the heroic moves and bits and pieces. I probably could have one-turned him, but like I said, I slightly ballsed it up. So by this point, his other cavalry had been coming in, getting close, and I kind of could see it was coming, so set up my defensive line with more guys behind to try and swamp him. Following turns, what was it? All the Royal Guard died over probably 4 or 5 turns. No, a little bit longer. They held up the Witch King for a little while, and then Eowyn charged into 3 Black Numenorians and 3 Morannons, supporting, and she died in a turn. I can't remember whether I transfixed her or not, but yeah, she didn't. So I think I got to say Eowyn charged in and promptly died in a turn. Then yeah, after that Erkenbrand came across, Captain came across, but I could get to his banner with the fell beasts, and he didn't have anyone in contact with the banner, so that got killed, I think, by some orcs in the end. I think she tagged it off with some orcs, and I killed his banner. So at the end of the game, I had my banner was still alive, my leader was still alive, he was broken, he was down to 25%, so I ended up winning 12-0, which I was happy about. It was a good start. But he had a really, really nice army, really beautiful army. I voted for his as one of my favourite armies I played against across the weekend, and it was really, really nice. Lovely colours, good paint job, good bases, everything you can ask for, really. So it was a good first game for me. I could tell that it wasn't that fun for Rob, for Dave even. So I ended up with a win and a 12-0 win. So I will go on to game 2 next. So game 2 was against a guy called Ben Horton, who you may have seen some photos of his work. He has the very, very nice Lake Town Guard Captain. That's a mouthful. He won the individual hero painting competition. It's one I voted for. Really, really like the paint job on it. Massively so. So he was really good. But I was then playing with my good force, which seemed alright. Seemed like it should do what it should do. And he had the 3 trolls, so Bill, Bert, Tom. He also has 12 hunter orcs with Thimble, and he had 17 fell orcs. So ended up, it was recon was the scenario, so I was a little bit worried at the start because he had that much movement. So I ended up putting Garn on my right flank with some because he had the edge of the board and a woodland kind of flanking him. Then Lady of Light and Thranduil came down the middle with Beregondur's left, and Damrod didn't turn up, turn on. His 3 trolls came down the centre. Then he got 6 wargs on opposite Garn, and Thimble kind of in the middle of those two, so he was kind of relatively spread out on the one side of the board. It came down to he moved forward, I shot at him a bit, and second turn Damrod and his other wargs came on. However, the thing I found slightly peculiar was he didn't bring his wargs on the other side of the board to get some off, because it's recon. So he just charged his wargs in behind the rest of his wargs. So I ended up kind of facing down all of them. Beregond and 2 knights went off and got off the board, with probably closer to near the end. And then we ended up having a bit of a scrap. Thranduil and Galadriel ended up killing Tom, his leader. Then ended up killing Bert, I think it was, the Fight 6 one. So ended up chopping him up. Oh, I need that. Then there was a scrap. It was kind of a scrap between everything else. He ended up getting 1 warg off. This is where it got really, really close. He got 1 warg off after charging through the trees. I then proceeded to. Oh, that's not gonna fit. I then proceeded to get, like I said, Beregond and the knights off. And then Bert was causing me issues, and I ended up having enough might with Garn to call some heroic moves one after another, one turn after another, to get some Woses back towards the wargs, and tag 2 literally half an inch off the board. So really, really, really close with that, and ended up slaying them, or at least no, that was it. I delayed them enough that the game ended because of time. So I ended up killing his leader, breaking him, getting 3 times as many off. I think that's it. Oh, I need that. That's a bit that I need broken off. That's certainly annoying. So ended up winning 12-0 again. Really happy with that win. My good force kind of performed how I thought it would perform. The knights did exactly what I thought they would. So yeah, really, really good. So I was on 2 wins with a 24-point VP difference. Maximum VPs. Really happy with everything. And then I'll move into game 3. So game 3, kind of sat down, last game of the day, sat down looking around who's my opponent, and it turned out to be Mark Kempster. You will have known Mark. I've played him at Cheltenham. He's one of the guys in the local scene. I say local, like within hour and a half, who goes to southern events. He's run a few, went to Bicester beginning of February for a little one-day tournament. That was really good. So played him, and I was younger, or I am younger, so I rolled and I got my evil force, which was quite good because his evil force was Smaug, and I really don't think I would have been able to do much because it's Fog of War, which is the one where you select the terrain piece, one of your heroes, one of their heroes. Their hero you have to kill, your hero has to survive, and the terrain piece you have to get more guys into it than them. So he had Old Thranduil, Stormcaller, Gimli and King's Champion. The King's Champion and Gimli only had hazards with them, and he had probably four guards of the Gladrim Court, maybe 5. Obviously the heralds from the King's Champion. He then just had a couple of Wood Elves and a couple of Galadrim kind of kicking about. By a couple I mean like 4 or 5. Where the hell does that go? So yeah, we got started. You start 12 inches from your board edge. So I just gradually progressed forward, and then he starts shooting me, as you can expect. Start shooting, kind of just trying to get some Ranons here and there, just get a few kills. I think he killed like 1, 2 maybe, but I think it must have been the 3rd turn, 4th turn. He decides to shoot 4 Galadrim bows and go, okay, at my Taskmaster, which is behind my lines. So he rolls his 4 dice to hit. 3 of them hit. Yep, fair enough. Elf shooting, stayed still. It's probably more than likely that's going to happen. Then those 3 all get through the first rank. I'm thinking, okay, not great, but survivable. All get through the second rank. Okay then, he's got 3 dice on my Taskmaster. Statistics say he should get 1/5. Not too bad. Got my fate, got my wounds. Right then. Causes 2 wounds. So suddenly I'm slightly worried. I've got 2 wounds on my Taskmaster, and the lines I haven't even met yet. I haven't even called a heroic move, heroic combat, heroic march, anything like that. Next turn I was going to call a heroic march and go sap the Stormcaller's will, that kind of thing. And I rolled a 1 on my fate. So even with my 2 points of might, my Taskmaster couldn't do anything. And by this point, we both kind of said it. That's a massive game changer. We were talking afterwards, and pretty much that's where the game swang. For a start, I lost 2 points of might without using it, and the Taskmaster's effect for the Fellbeast has completely disappeared. So ended up being he's scrapping on the front line. He cast Nature's Wrath. He got me on the floor, but didn't. I think he killed 2 of about 10 combats. I stood up on all the rest, so it didn't go too badly, but I just couldn't win the fights. I couldn't do my heroic moves and my heroic combats. Just a bit of a nightmare, really. Just all went wrong. The dice were in his favour. He played it really, really well. He ended up near the end. He sent 2 models to every terrain piece in my board half. So he didn't need to do much, and it all kind of fell his way. That was one of my best games of the weekend. Not only for the ridiculous dice to get through, but playing Mark's always fun. We had a good laugh, chatting about this, that and the other, and a really, really good time. So that meant I finished day 1 with 2 wins and a loss, still plus 18 VPs, so huge VP difference, even though I got a loss in there, and 3 good games. Was drawn against armies that couldn't really cope with what I had in the first 2, and the Mark's army was definitely a massive anti-evil list. So happy with my performance, happy with how I played. Dice are a completely separate thing. If dice don't go well, you're not going to win anything, to be honest. But happy with how I played, happy with how it all went. Just a little bit frustrated that the that my Taskmaster died so quickly. So I'll come on to game 4 next. Actually, I'll talk a bit about the quiz and what went on. So we've finished game 3. We finished a little bit later than we thought, so we just hung around at Warhammer World and waited for Mr. Troke's little presentation that he said he'd do. And this was, I think it was slightly not off the cuff, but it wasn't definitely confirmed there was going to be one. So he got talking about bits and pieces about what's going on. So firstly, what did he show first? think. Oh, I can't remember. Hilda and Percy, and he said they should be coming out pretty soon. So he said they should be coming out pretty soon. The models have been shown for them a while ago. They look really good. So yeah, interrupted again. So yeah, Hilda and Percy were shown, painted models. So they should be out relatively soon, I think he said. And then he showed us pictures of Goblin mercenaries. And there is 12 in a box plus a captain. So they come as a full warband. And the Adam was saying that the way they've been designed and sculpted, there's a lot of interchangeable arms and legs and all that kind of stuff. So I think he said you could probably get 3, possibly 4 full warbands without them starting to look similar, which I think is excellent. It's just what we need. Variety of poses is always something that I try to have. You've seen it with the Mahud and the Knights of Dol Amroth, constantly bending metal models in ways that they probably shouldn't. So yeah, they look really, really cool. Then what else did he show? He also showed, I know some of the things down the line. Oh yeah, he spoke a bit about the Nazgul, because the 3rd pack came out on the weekend, exclusively for people at Warhammer World. I think they're out in a couple of weeks. Don't quote me on that, but I'm presuming like the March kind of release they'll be out. And then I don't think there's any more Forge World stuff. Not that, I'm trying to think what's in the book. Not that I can think of. They do intend to do everything in there and back again, but it might come out in stages. So then he spoke a little bit about what else is coming. And one of the first things they've looked at is a Mummock upgrade kit, which sounds amazing, and it looks amazing, trust me. So essentially they've re-sculpted the Beastmaster on the front of the Mummock. So he is actually now, I think Adam said you'd get a Mummock with all the guys on the top plus all the Forge Rod stuff to change the Mummock, which I'll talk about now. So it kind of like one big box. You don't buy the upgrade kit and then buy the Mummock, that kind of thing. So it's got new tusks, so you can give it actual tusk weapons. So it's got spikes and everything coming off. I think this is one of the things I'm going to be buying when it comes out. I'm not sure when it's coming out. That's one thing. So it's got actual tusks, tusk weapons even. It's got the Beastmaster with new ears, so there's rope going into the ears, which I think is really, really cool. Then it had a new trunk, so it points up, so it kind of comes up, and I think that was it, as far as I can remember from the picture. So yeah, it's a really cool looking model. Really excited. I'd get it for my Mahud alone. And then he told us that Farmer Maggot was coming back. along with Hobbit sheriffs. So if you're planning to sell any, you have to charge them at a nice price now. Hobbits aren't something that I've massively looked into in the past. Maybe get some. Quite like some Hobbit archers to go with my Arnor when I eventually do it, but that's a while off yet. So that's all I can think of. And he was looking at the Hobbit sheriffs coming back in and Farmer Maggot in about May. And then we had the quiz from Jay. The quiz from Jay was really, really good. Quite difficult in places, but really, really good fun. You will have seen some of the Say What You Sees on Facebook, and bits and pieces like that. So there was lots of good questions, and I can't remember. I don't know if Damien's team won last year, but him, Nick Bramwell, Ed Ball, Callum Edens, and who else in their team? Someone else in their team won, and they got 53 out of 60 possibly. I don't know, but really, really good, and lots of exciting things to come. They're looking at obviously redoing Pelennor, like everyone knows, and adding bits and pieces. So there's plenty of new stuff coming. So day 2, game 4, was drawn against Katrina Miller, who had Goblin King, Grinner, Scribe, Captain, Cave Drake, 2 spiders and 4 wargs, 6 wargs, something like that. Quite a cool army. Obviously a little bit horrible. And it was against my good force, and we were playing Capture and Control. No, we weren't. No, that's a lie. No, it was Capture and Control. I am all over the place. And she started with kind of goblins on the front line. I positioned my guys slightly further back so I could try and get some shots off beforehand. She put a cave drake right down the middle, which was a little disconcerting. So it ended up being that I managed to get one combat where Thranduil and Galadriel heroic combated and heroic struck off a little goblin onto the Goblin King, and she did not call the counter strike. So I went into Goblin King and caused quite a few wounds, I think. Ended up taking a couple of wounds off him, but he survived. So then came down to slugging out a little bit more. The next turn, and then the Wozes and Wilds were fighting on completely the other side, which I definitely think was a mistake on my part. I should have just clumped my whole army together and let her get some objectives, and then gradually gone and collected everything. So a little bit of an oversight from me. I'll be honest, I was very worried about the Cave Drake because I know they can be horrible and eat stuff up like nobody's business. So the Goblin King then ended up fighting Thranduil. I think we both struck, and she possibly went higher. Essentially, she rendered Thranduil, caused some wounds on him, and he survived with his fate. And then went and they fought again. And this is the point we were chuckling about. The Goblin King won again. Went to rend, rolled 2 2s and a 1, so no wounds from him, and then he was backed up by a plucky little goblin, who then proceeded to do the final wound on Thranduil. At this point I couldn't remember whether it was defense 5 or defense 6. and looked it up, and he still has 5. So there's one plucky little goblin from behind the Goblin King caused the final wound on Thranduil, which was amusing and annoying, just like my Taskmaster being shot. So then we ended up scrapping a little bit more. I ended up claiming one and then losing it again. Damrod and his chaps were kind of semi in the middle, trying to avoid the Cave Drake and trying to claim objectives, but there was loads of goblins. Oh, that's it. She was rolling really, really well for a scribe. He was bringing on between 4 and 6 goblins a turn. I think there was one turn where he didn't bring on anyone. So then it came down to the end, and I broke her. She broke me as well, I think, or not. I can't remember. But she passed a load of character tests, absolutely loads, and she ended up holding all the objectives. So I got beat 12-1 or 12-2. No, 12-1. I broke her and killed her leader. So yeah, second loss. Really, really fun opponent. Played in good spirits. Played with a smile the whole time. One of those games where you just chuckling and finding out it's little funny things and little funny acts. So I'll go on to game 5. So game 5. By this point I'm 2-2, with still plus 6-ish VPs. Oh, there's 2 in there. Sorry, I'm just opening one of the last packs of Champions Available. And I played Dave Murphy from Ireland. And he had a Goblin King, Grinner, Captain, a Mori Goblin Shaman with some Mori Goblin Spears, a Bat Swarm and a Warg Marauder. Then he had Witch King on a Fellbeast with a Black Numenorian banner. Oh yeah, so I was playing my good force. His good force was an all-mounted hero force. So then Contest of Champions was the scenario, which was I thought would be a little bit of a struggle. His leader was the Goblin King, so was facing him for the second game in a row. So then it kind of you deploy on the front line and you just kind of hammer and tong from the start. His Witch King caused a little bit of problems, nothing major. I managed to tag it quite a few times, but it ended up being Galadriel and Thranduil against the Goblin King. So in like one of the first combats, the Goblin King was fighting, I think it was Thranduil was transfixed, and then I had 3 elves in it as well, and I ended up winning the fight. I think it was a roll off, possibly, and well, anyway, 2 elves caused 2 wounds on the Goblin King, which I thought, great, it's a good start. Then he checked for Fury. No, didn't save the wounds. He checked Blubbery Mass. No, didn't save the wounds, which is incredible. And then he rolled a 1 on his fate, so he did a me with my Taskmaster, which then he had to use all 3 points of might to just keep him alive, because he'd already taken 1 wound in a previous combat, which had been quite nice. So I thought, great, got him on the ropes. Goblin King's nearly dead, and then he didn't die, and he didn't die for a couple more turns. In the end, I ended up killing him, but with Galadriel instead of Thranduil. I think Thranduil was tied up by something else. And at this point his Goblin King had killed 2 guys and Thranduil had killed 1. So it essentially was just coming down to a straight fight, with Thranduil trying to kill stuff. Thranduil ended up facing 1 goblin, to which he rolled double 1s to win the combat, and then he didn't take any wounds or anything. So then in the final turn, trying to get through it relatively quickly, we got to the final turn, and Thranduil by this point is out of might. He's kind of he can kill stuff, but it's not a given like the Goblin King. So I ended up chucking him against 2 goblins. If I kill one, I draw the game because we're both broken. If I kill both, I win the game. Quite simple. That's how it ended up being. Okay, well, we kind of decided to cut time short because none of the other combats really matter. And Dave rolls his dice for the combat. 2 goblins, 2 Goblin Town goblins. Nothing much. Oh yeah, I failed to kill the shaman at the start of this turn as well, so they didn't. So they'd had fury, but he rolled 2 dice and rolls a 6. To which point I'm feeling annoyed slightly, because it was just like this one combat I needed to go my way, and it didn't look like it was going to. So I roll my 2 dice. I see a 5. Second dice, I see another 5. So Thranduil doesn't win the combat, doesn't get the chance to kill anything, and ends up a 6-1 loss. So after having a great start to day 2, day 1 even, I had a rubbish start to day 2. But a good game, quite tactical. I'll do a little review of at the end, but I don't think either my good list was up to it or I'd played with it enough. So yeah, so I lost game 5, that is. And by this point I was constantly on tables in like the teens, so 10, 14, 15, 16, something like that. And that loss sent me down to table 33. And I'll come in with my final game now. So, final game of the tournament. By this point we're all flagging slightly. It gets started at 3:45 on Sunday. And I'm playing Nick Bramwell, who had a very nice Gondor army. He had Faramir on horse, Denethor, Madril, Baragon, Damrod, and just with a mix of Citadel Guard, some warriors, some guards at the Fountain Court, some rangers, some knights, a bit of everything. And it ended up, he came on a little bit everywhere. So we had Faramir and 6 knights, backed up by Baragon and 8 Citadel Guard with bows. Denethor was in the opposite corner with Fountain Court, Warrior with a banner, and some normal warriors. Damrod came on kind of a little bit up the board to him with 8 rangers, I think it was. And then Madril came on kind of in the middle of the other board edge with a Warhorn and a mix of Warriors of Minas Tirith, Citadel Guard and Fountain Court Guard. The Warhorn was such a good addition for him. I'll put that out there from the start. Helped him. I had, obviously with my Spectre and everything, it kind of just negated the Harbinger of Evil, which is actually quite massive. So turn 1 I came on and compelled a knight into me, thinking I'll hurl him and knock all his knights off their horses, including Faramir, which I managed to do, all except 2. I'm pretty sure I killed another one relatively shortly after that, just to try and get kind of. I tried to jump on Faramir, but he ended up striking higher, so I jumped away. And then kind of it ended up being that Nick tried to dig up 2 on his side, failed on 5s. This is heirlooms. Then I tried to pick up 2, failed on 5s, and it ended up being 2 left. And I had kind of about 6 or 7 guys going towards 1, and the rest of my army near another, and the Phobies were kind of in the middle of them both. So I ended up thinking I'll try and pick up 1 because only part of Nick's army is there and the majority of mine is there. Trying to pick it up wasn't that, so it ended up obviously being the other one. So Nick's got it. By this point the Witch King has gone, killed Damrod. Yeah, just jumped onto Damrod. I've then gone round and managed to get hold of his banner. I compelled it out into me, and then he had a spear support, so I barged, separated them, and killed the banner, so therefore I've got some VPs. I then proceeded to move the Witch King along the back of the board towards the actual prize. My 6 or 7 guys in the middle held up kind of Denethor and Damrod's warbands, with the Undying and the rest of the guys going after the actual prize. So I trucked, well, I put the Knight of Umbar on ruins so he couldn't charge me, which ended up being really, really helpful. It also meant I didn't lose Will that quickly either. He kept trying to shoot me instead of moving a Citadel Guard in, which I don't know what I would have done, to be honest. He would have had the numbers and the bodyguard and all of that to get the Undying, but like I say, he was up high, so he couldn't actually go up there. It ended up being he had a little ring near the end. The Undying was looking for an opportunity for about half an hour. And with about 10 minutes to go, it ended up my Witch King had come over, was in charge range, the Undying was in charge range, and he had a little ring. Had Madril, 4 guards of the Fountain Court, a Warrior Ministerius and a Citadel Guard round the Warhorn and the guy with the prize, which was a Fountain Court by this point. So I charged the Witch King and the Undying into both sides of this ring. Elected to barge with both. Won the combats. So barged some guys out of the way so I could get to the Warhorn. Managed to kill the Warhorn, which didn't really do much, but if the game had gone on any more, I could have got him. I could have done more damage. And then barged the banner kind of into the into an archway of some ruins, but it was on the corner bit. So I had a Black Numenor in the kind of the other side, and the Undying moved on to the. Once he barged, he moved on to the guy with the prize. And from the way I positioned, the Undying managed to kill the Fountain Court, but also it was in a position where he couldn't go down the side of me to go pick up the prize even if he won priority. And I did have my Taskmaster there with the last point of might. So it ended up being he lost priority, but either way he couldn't get there, and I ended up picking the prize with about 10 minutes left to go. So from an actual game perspective, I'm really happy with how I managed it. Really happy with how I managed it. A great opponent, really fun. Good fun. I thought he had me on the ropes at some points, but I ended up coming out with an 8-1 win, I think it was, because I had the prize and I also killed his banner. He was the incidentally he was the only player I played against where I didn't kill their leader. I was one of 2 people to kill 5 leaders. Actually quite happy about that. Yeah, so in the first game it was Aemir, then it was Tom, then it was 2 Goblin Kings, Thranduil I killed when I played Mark, and yeah, and then I didn't kill Denethor. I could have right near the end, but Denethor had 2 points of will left, and so he just about avoided being spectred, really close to a load of Marine Orcs. Otherwise that could have been very, very different. So yeah, overall, really good weekend. Really happy with how it all panned out. Probably could have done a bit better. Dice didn't necessarily favour me. So a big shout out to everyone who was in a house with Tom, Ben, Callum, Mark, obviously Luke and Clubley as well. Really good. Really happy with the weekend. An amazing place to be. So that's everything for my review. It's kind of a quick slapdash. Go for it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please comment, like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.